Lake Ontario is widely known for many species of fish, including salmon and trout. This massive lake also has some trophy smallmouth bass. On today's episode, Bob utilizes his electric motor to cover the crystal clear water sight fishing with a combination of jerkbait and tubes for a fun day on the water.
Whoa. Wow. That is a fish of a lifetime. Here we go, boy. Wow, that thing is a monster. They fight hard, don't they?
Look at that magnificent fish.
Look at the size of that fish.
There he is again.
The color is incredible. Oh, there we go.
The Real Fishing Show with Bob Azumi.
Big old Great Lakes smallmouth. That is a big rainbow trout, Chris. Nice double header. Whoa.
Nice jump.
Yeah. All right. That is a monster smallmouth. Man, that is so cool. Another one. There we go. The biggest pike I've ever caught in my life. Look at that chunk. Well, that's what we're talking about.
Real Fishing is sponsored by Mercury, #1 on the water, and Mystic Lubricants.
On the Real Fishing Show, we make catching fish like this a possibility. Come on, fish. That was on a long cast. Saw a big boulder in there and fired this jerk bait. And one of the things in clear water is what you want to do is use as long a cast as you can when working a jerk bait. The other thing is you look at this rod here and it's really loaded up. Oh yeah, that's a nice one there. Oh yeah. Whoa. Because a softer rod like this on a treble hook type lure is really key. Because you don't want to pull the hooks on it. So there we go. Whoa, that is a big slab right there. Look at that thing. Whoa. Oh, that is a giant smallmouth right there. Now, one thing about jerkbait, not only does it catch fish, it catches fishermen because all those hooks, so you got to be careful. And this is a skinny cutter, 110, and I have all the tools and everything ready to go because it's got ultra sharp treble hooks on, and this is really an affordable jerkbait. Folks at Berkeley came out with a whole line of hard baits, and that jerk bait there, for the money, is just an incredible bait. And that's a big old smallmouth right there. Now, this will pacify them. If you just hold them like this, it just sort of pacifies them. But watch when I put it in the water, what happens. See you later, bud. All right. So the key is, you know, whether you're using a spinning outfit or a bait caster like I'm using, is make super long casts. You want to just wind up and get that bait as far away from the boat as possible before you start making those rips and jerks on this bait. Okay, here we go. Harry's coming for it. He's got it. Oh. Oh, there we go. Oh, man. Whoa. That's funny. What I did is I worked down this stretch with a jerk bait, and some fish were showing themselves following, but wouldn't commit to the jerk bait. So I turned around now and I'm just throwing a tube on this rock line. And one of the things about smallmouth fishing is, you know, you can approach it two ways. You can be aggressive, you know, with big spinner baits, jerk baits, crank baits, or you can be subtle. And that's the cool thing about it is to offer them a 1-2 punch. That's what I like to do anytime I'm out smallmouth fishing in clear water is oh, that's a heavy fish, is what I'll do is always have follow-up baits rigged up, subtle baits, like this little power tube here. And this is just a 2.5-inch goby colored power tube. And it's just rigged up as a follow-up bait when I know there's some fish in the area. See you later, buddy. All right.
Coming up.
Whoa. Wow.
Let's take a look down under with this week's Fish Eye View, sponsored by Mercury, #1 on the water. It's encouraging to see so many anglers practicing catch and release. This single act is the best thing we can do to preserve fishing for our future and our children's. Despite the best of intentions, there remains a small percentage of mortality following live release. Here are a few considerations to minimize these losses. Some fish are simply hardier than others. Warm water species, for instance. Bass are ideally suited and may be caught and released many times. Cold water inhabitants like trout and salmon are quite delicate and need to be cradled gently. Only experienced anglers should attempt to hold any fish by the gill plate. When using live bait or equally effective imitations, set hook immediately on a strike to minimize swallowing. If hooked deeply or in the gills, cut the line and things will dissolve harmlessly in time. That's why it's essential to use hooks that rust easily while avoiding stainless steel or coated types. Time out of the water is the biggest factor. During sub-zero temperatures, eyes can freeze in seconds, leading to blindness and death from starvation. At other times, try this. When you land a fish, take a deep breath and hold it. Remove hooks, take pictures, whatever. Once you feel the need to breathe again, it's pretty much certain that fish does too.
Oh, you know, one of the things is that fish hit on a really long cast with this little 2.5-inch power tube. And one of the keys is using your electric motor and the wind. Now, I first went down this line, I first went down this line with the wind, making super long casts with a bait caster and a jerk bait. And it's a lot easier to cast a bait caster with the wind. And it's a lot, easier to cast a spinning rod into the wind. So what I did is I turned the boat around, and now I'm using the electric motor faced right into the wind and make a more long cast, with a fixed spool spinning reel like I've got here. And one of the things that you really have to pay attention to is that a lot of times the angle of your retrieve is important. And there are times when you're on the water where you could be fishing along and the fish want your lure coming with the waves. And there's just a light breeze here today. It's not big, but other times they want it going against it. So a lot of times the angle of your bait coming through the water column is very important. Now in current situations, that you've got current, there's no question your lure going with the current catches a lot more fish than a lure going upstream. So it's nice to always pay attention to those little details. Oh. Whoa. Wow. That is a big fatty. Funny thing about it is sometimes they'll just pick up a tube. Other times, they'll slam it pretty good, but that one just barely grabbed it. And come on, baby. That's a big old smallmouth there. Oh yeah. Whoa. Look at that thing. And one of the things about, when you're throwing a tube and, especially on this 1-2 punch where you want to see where they are with an aggressive bait like a jerk bait is you just want to fish it subtle, because it really, you got to say, what does a tube jig look like? Maybe like a goby, a crayfish. I mean, I'm not sure, but there's not much to it. But boy, does it catch big fish like that. And that's the smallest tube in the power bait line. And it's like a 2.5 incher. Look at that thing. Whoa. Very nice. And straight back down. Fish like that, pretty old fish, important. You got to put them back. That could be like a 12, 14-year-old fish.
Coming up.
This is an absolute trophy smallmouth right here. One of the things I like to do with all of my spinning and casting reels is I'll label the pound test and also the time I put it on. So what I like to do is use a different color than black electrical tape on the inside of the reel seat on my spinning and casting reels, and I'll put the date and the month that it was put on, as well as the pound test of line that I've got. Because I fish so many different techniques, a lot of times, you know, I'll forget what I have spooled up, and I may need 6-pound test fluorocarbon, or I might use 10-pound fluorocarbon, and I'll, you know, use that little reminder there. Also, I'll know when it's time to change it. And I do recommend that you change your line at least once a season. In tournament competition, I'll change my line on all my reels before the tournament starts. Okay. Oh, there we go. Wow, I can't believe that fish came out of nowhere at my retrieve. I had 10 feet of line out, and this smallmouth grabbed this jerk bait, and it's funny, I'm gonna show you, it might pull off, but look at that, it right on the back hook. And usually you get them hooked on the belly hook, but that one there grabbed it right at the end. Oh, it's ever cold to the touch. The water temperature is like 65.9, but it's actually, that fish is cold. It's funny how it came up and just nipped at the crankbait. I didn't even see it. I don't even know where it came from, but I was just jerking it along. And one of the keys with a jerk bait is you got to develop a cadence, you know, and it could be jerk, 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 jerk like this, and then stop it, or sometimes it's just a steady type jerking motion like this. But they're a bait that attracts fish from a far ways away. In clear water like this, they can come 20, 30, 40 feet for a jerk bait. But one of the keys is to figure out what type of retrieve to use, because every day is different, even every hour is different. So just always vary your retrieve when you're using a jerk bait. See what the fish want. Wow, this is an absolute trophy smallmouth right here. And funny thing is, it followed in my jerk bait and then went back down. And we're talking about a big, whoa, a big smallmouth. Pull this net out. Oh. This thing is a horse. Check this baby out. Whoa. Wow. Whoa. Oh. Oh man. That is like a giant. Wow. Whew. You know, it's funny because I can't stress enough paying attention always when you're using baits like jerk baits or spinner baits or anything in clear water for smallmouth is to follow and be watching behind your lure and then, you know, looking all the time for fish. I mean, that's a big smallmouth right there. That's well over 5 pounds. Whew. Put it in the live well for a quick photo and then I'll release it. Wow. Well, you gotta love big old smallmouth like this. I mean, that fish there is well over 5 pounds and just a trophy fish, but I think we gotta get her back in the water. And look at that big, that fish shook. It had a little bit of attitude. Very strong jaws. Chewing on lots of crawdads and I'm sure gobies and everything else, but awesome. So one of the keys though is really keeping an eye behind your bait at all time. And I love to sight fish and good pair of polarized glasses are very important.
Coming up.
Wow, you gotta love those big, dark smallmouth.
This tip of the week is sponsored by Coleman, the outdoor company.
When we're fishing big expanses of open water, what we like to do is idle around and use our electronic eye. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping an eye on the graph and I'm just looking for fish down there in, you know, 30 plus feet of water. So we're in anywhere from 20 to 30 feet of water here and just looking for fish. Now, one thing you can do is drop a waypoint as soon as you see some. That's a cool way of marking them. Or you can throw a buoy marker over the side, or you can hit your anchor mode. And on this XI5 electric motor here, I can just hit the anchor mode right here and bang, it'll lock it into place. So if I mark a fish and I want to fish it, shut the motor off, hit the anchor mode and just start fishing right above the fish. Just a simple, easy way of staying on the fish. Come on. Oh, that's a big smallmouth. He just chased it and chased it here. Maybe I can throw a tube back and get him. That thing was just chasing like nobody's business. Let's see if he's ready to hit. Come on down. Get that tube back to where he was. There we go. Whoa. Wow, you gotta love those big, dark smallmouth. They're just so incredible. And you know, in clear water, they stick out like a sore thumb. One of the things, you know, when it comes to different sunglasses, there's Coast have 6 different colors of lenses. They've got 3 different mirror colors. Personally, I use a lot of gray for real bright sunny days like today, copper for higher contrast and really pop the colors, and then I'll go with the specialty color, which is sunrise, which is like a yellowish tinge. And the sunrise, what I like about it is for low light conditions like early morning, overcast conditions, situations, you know, or maybe late in the day, is I'll go to a sunrise, which is, you know, just incredible. But let me just put that fish back in. And the whole key there is just to cut that glare down so you can see. And that fish there was cruising, and I was watching it and watching it. And I kept following it and throwing it in front of it. Finally, it just tilted down, and with the glasses, I could see it tilt down. And you know, we're fairly deep water here too. What are we? Just under 10 feet of water, but you can see perfectly through here. It's just so clear. You know, a lot of times we'll use baits like jerk baits as almost a search bait to find the the smallmouth in clear water because you can cover so much water. You know, you can have your trolling motor on, you know, medium speed, and you can be chucking along, making long casts like I'm making now. And in a lot of cases, the fish will come up and they'll flash at it, and sometimes they'll miss it or they'll just chase it. So what we like to do in a lot of cases is we'll just use our jerk bait to find, oh, there's one right there following. Come on, baby. Okay, I'm gonna throw a tube down there and see what happens. Come on, baby. Got it. Oh, yeah. Whoa. That was so cool because this fish came up, looked at the jerk bait, went back down. So I picked up this tube and fired it in the same direction, and bang, oh, look at that fish. That was a big one right there. Once again, you know, it's so cool. Oh yeah, that fish there is over 5 for sure. Look at that big smallmouth. Wow. Look at that thing. Whoa, baby. Oh yeah. Whoa. That is just so cool. That is a block of a smallmouth right there. You know, that's so cool. When you get a smallmouth that is just square like that, that is just wild. Wow. I think we better put her back in the water. What a fatty. It's got some weight to it too. That might even go like closer to 6 pounds. That's a big, huge fish. Wow, look at that thing. Okay. You know, when it comes to bass fishing, I guess really what you have to do is use your imagination. I mean, you can't get stuck in a rut. I've fished tournaments now since I've been 15 years old, and I've fished them for a lot of years. And one of the things is when you think you know a lot about bass fishing, then you have to learn more because there's always something different coming out. But one thing I will say is keep an open mind. In the case of clear water like this, here's just a couple of things to keep in mind. Long casts in clear water. So a lot of your gel spun lines are good for this, you know, nano fill, fire line, those type of lines. And fluorocarbon leaders because of the clear water. And always keep an eye on your lure and around your surrounding areas around the boat. Hey folks, clear water bass fishing, you gotta give it a try. I love it.
Real Fishing was sponsored by Mercury, #1 on the water, and Mystic Lubricants.
Let's size up, baby. That thing's got some weight to it. Size that puppy right there. That is just wild. Beautiful, beautiful. Look at the size of that thing. Wow.